Hey everybody, this is Perch, and talking a little bit about combo titles. And I'm saying this in reference to some news. So we'll break some news and we'll talk a little bit about the history of all of it. We have this Captain America Iron Man book, which is a new title coming out this November. It's written by Derek Landy. It's art by Angel Unzeta. And the synopsis basically goes, the series focuses on a new Hydra villain with connections to both Iron Man and Captain America. In fairness, wouldn't that be like any Hydra villain that fought the Avengers at some point? Sorry. Who go on the hunt for the mysterious agent when she breaks out of prison. But their mission will put them on the trail of an even bigger villain somewhere in the Hydra chain of command. Okay. So this is a team-up book. And what's interesting about this, and the way they're billing this is kind of telling. It's talking about the first team-up book for Captain America and Iron Man since Civil War. And again, they've been on the Avengers together. Like that is a team-up book. There was even that mini series with Thor and Iron Man and Captain America that Alan Davis did. But okay, so this is a two comic. Now, if you've read comics for a long time, particularly in the 70s and 80s, you might remember that there were a number of Marvel team-up, Marvel 2-in-1. These were, this was common. Same thing over at DC. There was a lot of, both from Brave and the Bold, which everybody remembers, to a ton of different team-up books. So this was something that once upon a time was a marketable seller. And if you look at some of those newsstand numbers at the time, these books sold really well. They tended to do, you know, very good business, and certain solo titles often sprang out of this stuff. A lot of characters that you know and love today came out of these combo books. But what's interesting is they seem to fall out of favor in the 80s. And what kind of seemed to happen was that the comics, the characters would graduate from the book, meaning anything that was popular would spin off into a solo series, and that the publishers seemed to take that as the goal. The goal was to get a solo series out of it. So the comic would, if there's any success at all, it would become a solo book. It would spin out, and then eventually they stopped doing this 2-in-1 type story. But I think the format was solid, and I think it actually did a good job of building the groundwork for these books before immediately rushing them into, an individual effort. I think some of these titles, did really well and could continue to do really well, but they were put in the wrong spot. I think that here in 2021, as we now kind of take a step back, I think that this title definitely has a place. Now, keep in mind this Captain America Iron Man thing is, let's see, it's 5 issues, I think. It's a limited series. Maybe it says here in the press release. I'm not seeing it. I think 5 issues is most likely. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that's what it's going to be. Yep, it's a 5-issue limited series. There it is. I just need to read down. But you look at some of these Young Avengers characters. You look at some of the new characters, and there was this thread on Twitter about saying cite an unpopular comic book opinion. And several people came in there to say, they need to kill off and or retire a lot of the legacy characters because nobody cares about them anymore. We've heard their stories too many times, and we need to give the new people a place to shine. That sounds like a slogan, probably sounds like good advice, who knows, but it's not a good plan. If you just, I say that with certainty, because we've seen how it plays out. They get Tony Stark out of the armor, they put in Riri Williams, the sales go down. You can't, when that happens over and over and over again, you can't just blame alt-right trolls. You have to at some point say, hey, the buying audience isn't coming in here. And the answer to maybe how you push some of these new characters up is in the past. And the past was these kinds of 2-in-1 books where you would take maybe a popular character, you'd have them team up with a less popular character, or there's a lot of different ways you could do it, and you give people some exposure in this limited way, and you don't try and do lousy storytelling from new writers about how the new character is just superior in every way. I mean, this is one of the biggest flaws of current comics, is that whether the writers are in too much of a hurry to make things happen or what, I don't know. But they, rather than organically build these characters, rather than get the fans saying this character is better than the original, they feel like they have to tell you. And if they just tell you 18 times, you'll eventually believe it, is kind of where it goes. And I think they believe their own hype because other people regurgitate that on Twitter, but they aren't the people reading the book. So, I mean, key example is Hawkeye is a character that was, I mean, never A-list kind of popular, but he was a solid B character. There was a Hawkeye limited series. He was in Solo Avengers, kind of trying his thing. Marvel kept trying to make Hawkeye work, and he worked okay, but never amazing. He never got to be a super, huge star in the company. And so they, so they didn't give him a solo book. They kept trying different things. They'd put him in the Avengers. They'd kind of play into the fact that he had this, insecurity complex in some cases to Captain America and other things. But along comes Kate, and the way that they decided to hype Kate was to have the comic writer in the comic with kind of fictional characters telling you she's the more popular Hawkeye. She's the one everybody loves. She's the one that actually is the true leader, the one that's really good at things, the one that has her life together. And nobody ever buys that stuff. It never works. You can't just tell the reader, hey, this is a more popular one. And so as a result, we've got this very weird middle ground where the legacy character, Clint, Hawkeye, is not super popular. The new character, Kate, is not terribly popular. And a lot of it's because they decided to kind of hook on by saying Kate is somehow a better Hawkeye than the original Hawkeye, which isn't that popular of a Hawkeye in the first place. So rather than let the character just get to be a fan favorite on her own, which I think she had a chance to do, there were ways you could have made Kate work. She had a little bit more of the private eye kind of thing. There was some new stories you could tell, her getting into... There was an element of Kate as Hawkeye that I think could have worked. And I think if you would have put the time into actually building up the character and have her get some good adventures and everything else, or, going back to the original topic, use this 2-in-1 example. Like have Kate have a year-long adventure where she's trying to help, Captain America do something. Don't have in this adventure Captain America constantly telling her, wow, you're way better than Clint. I think you're better than me. Man, you're the future of all superheroes, you are. Like, don't say that. Just have the character do some cool things. I mean, Joe and I looked at the Bloodstone Hunt, and you have this moment where for a while Mark Grunwald was building up Diamondback, this very sea-level villain. I mean, definitely not one of the superstars of the Marvel Universe. And you have her tagging along with Cap, and yes, there's a romantic angle there. You don't need to do that with Kate, but they basically built up credibility that Diamondback was formidable and, could stand with this legend, with Captain America. And they did it through actions, and they did it through some pretty cool stuff. That is the way. That is how you do it. I think the Marvel 2-in-1, the Marvel combo comic, same thing with DC. It's a good way, using a wrestling analogy. When you're trying to bring up a new star, one of the old tried and true tricks is to have the, John Cena or The Rock, somebody who has a lot of credibility, work with somebody who you want to have come up. And you basically, they call it giving it the rub. You give it, you give the younger wrestler, you give the newer wrestler the rub of the popularity of the older wrestler. And it's such a boring, tried and true model. I mean, that's this thing. It's common sense. And that's how you build superstars. You don't build them by having, like when The Rock was coming up, you had him working with Farouk, you have him working with Steve Austin, you have him working with people who at the time were bigger than him. And he rapidly, he basically proved his worth. You had Mick Foley, who was an excellent performer and good on the mic, and you had The Rock working with Mick Foley because that would, help put him in a better light and help put him over as a character. And you do all these things, and the end result is this bankable wrestler they made millions and millions of dollars from, and then he subsequently ditched them and went to Hollywood. So there's a route here, is all I'm saying. Anyway. I think it's interesting. Iron Man, Captain America. Curious if you're going to be buying this, what you think of it. If this is something that appeals to you, let me know in the comments below. But more important than that, I think this combo approach, this way of putting people, this is not an anthology. This is truly giving the a popular character with a less popular character and putting them in an adventure together where the less popular character has a chance to elevate and shine. Feels like a no-brainer. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.